So I just wanted to do a little impromptu video. I don't have a mic or anything like that, and I'm kind of trying to sit in front of the fire and warm myself. But I had a brief conversation this morning. I was in work. I still work part-time, and had a conversation with a young lady who had next to her 3 monster drinks, 3, and she said, it was payday, and like, I know they're really bad for me, blah blah blah, you know, kind of edging away from the judgment. And I said, look, it's your, you know, it's your body, but I just want to say they're so bad for you. And she, as I kind of stepped away and I heard a conversation, she was talking about how she had possible ADHD and autism that she was waiting for a diagnosis for. She's got PCOS, and also she mentioned recently that she had this huge blood clot coming out of her ear. And I didn't step in because actually this is the problem, and I would have been the same at her age, quite young. And I would have been the same at her age, like, I know it's really unhealthy, but I'm going to do it anyway. And I always look back on that and think, like, there's an element of, for me, of like self-abuse there, of like, I know how bad it is, but I'm going to treat my body like shit. But also that we know that we have the awareness of how bad it is, that it's bad for us, but we don't know how bad. We don't know the what's coming in those situations. We don't know what those foods will do to us. And I'm not shaming, like, I love a coffee, love a bar of chocolate, love a cake. Cake's my favourite. But I also know what it does to my body and when it's getting out of hand and why I'm doing it. And that's taken a lifetime to learn. So there's absolutely no judgment here of what's going on. But I was the same, like when I was in my 20s, thankfully, I never got a blood clot coming out of my ear, but I also got lots of other things going on. And these unexplained symptoms that send us to the doctor, and the doctor says, I don't know, it's probably just one of those one-off things, or you're anxious, or you've got to go on the waiting list for ADHD, blah, 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 without even asking what you had to eat this week, what's your food diary like, how you feeling, what's your sleep like, what are your symptoms of ADHD, how does that show up, how do you know that you feel that way, or why do you think? None of that conversation happens, ever. And so we're marked with a diagnosis without really, and like checking the bloods and stuff like that, without really exploring what her home life is like, why she feels 3 monster drinks are a good thing, you know, what's going on in her stress levels, what's her sleep like, why is her diet so poor, is there any way we can improve that, before we start whacking people with medication. So it wasn't a rant, but it was more like it's just what I notice every day, how the jigsaw puzzle is all there, and just once it fits into place. But unfortunately, when that piece fits into place, it's normally down to illness. That's normally what happens. It normally something fires off. And that's what I asked last time, is what does your diagnosis do? Because that diagnosis can give you a multitude of emotions, feelings, responses, and how we deal with life. So there's all sorts of elements, emotional, psychological, patterning, programming from early life. You know, I was brought up in the 70s when, you know, I was lucky my mum was pretty good with food, but actually, you know, Vesta curries and pot noodles and that, they were like new age kind of, this is the fix for all. So, you know, it's just really about looking from above sometimes and looking at the bigger picture. And actually, when I sit in that environment, nearly every person in that environment, it doesn't eat anything fresh ever. So there's not even a balance. It's like what sits for breakfast, donuts and stuff like that. And so there's no judgment because I've done it. I've absolutely done it. Particularly when I worked in the NHS, cakes were the thing. People just obsessed with cakes. Post-COVID was just horrendous. So, you know, it's just really about maybe we need to understand the why we do things, but obviously when we go to a GP appointment, it's I've got this symptom, okay, this is what we do. We get bloods, you're either okay or you're not okay, and if you're not okay, we need more tests, and then we need to give you a diagnosis. Whereas actually, maybe we could look a little bit at your lifestyle and change things up, and maybe that'll reduce the symptoms even, or help you to cope with life a little bit better. So this is what we're going to be exploring this weekend, and it's been my entire journey, so hindsight is an incredible thing, right? But yeah, I just wanted to pop on and say that. So if you want to join me and Jen, then please come along on Saturday, and if not, you'll be hearing more from us anyway, because we're ready to rumble. All right, take care.